S.Simon is the senior lecturer at MIT Sloan Management School for many years dealing with analytics and with the predictive model development. If I'm correct, please say, or probably I should correct it more.
No, that's great. Yes, I recently rejoined MIT Sloan after a 10-year hiatus. I had graduated from the Operations Research Center in 2007, and then went on to work in the financial services industry in analytics for 10 years.
Okay, thank you. Our speaker is D.Kan. For now on, I'm introducing our foreign speakers. Dmitry, Kirill.
Hello everybody.
Dmitry Han, he's in Finland now, and he's the head of Search and Development Department at Alpha Sense company, and he's dealing also with the semantic analysis and predictive model development, right?
Correct, yes.
Thank you, Dmitry. And let me describe and introduce our local speakers. B.Pratsyuk, the head of R&D department at Cyclum company.
Hello.
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 And V.Zabolotna, the head of Unit Factory, the educational unit at Unit City.
Hi, everybody.
Karin, as we know, the artificial intelligence and the market demand for the artificial intelligence is very high now. It's booming. For last 3 years, it's probably tripled the market demand for AI specialists. And definitely, many educational programs react on that. And may I ask you how MIT educational programs differ from other educational programs over the world, and probably you can tell us something more about that, something more specific. And yeah, and probably you'll have some opinion about how this market will grow. Thank you.
Yes, so MIT has always been a strong player in the field of AI, notably through, CSIL, so the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab. But there's other departments such as the Media Lab, or at MIT Sloan, which had always had the operations research as the top graduate or PhD program in the world for operations research. But in realizing the growth in demand for analytics, MIT and in particular the Sloan School of Management, realizing that businesses needed more talent in analytics, has created some new programs which go from the undergraduate levels all the way to the doctoral levels. So for instance, at the undergraduate level, now the Sloan School of Management has undergraduate, major and minor in business analytics. And then recently a master's program was created. We call it the Master of Business Analytics, and it's a 12-month data science master's degree program that gives the students a blend of highly technical classes, but also some soft classes such as in business communication and in various business electives, in order to get them a well-rounded background for analytics. And then finally, at our MBA level, we've introduced last year a certificate program whereby students pursuing an MBA degree can take 6 classes, 3 core, 2 electives, and 1 action learning class in analytics, and get on top of their degree a certificate in analytics that proves that it's kind of like a concentration or a major, if you will. So that's kind of how MIT has responded to the growth in demand, as well as the growth in the Operations Research Center, which has grown from like a relatively small program into a very significant in size, with above 50 researchers. I think one of the strong suits of MIT, I would say, in terms of the programs it offers is, so a couple. We have one, I think there's a unique view at MIT about what analytics is about. And it is kind of going from data to decisions. So a lot of analytics is more predictive. So you go from data, build models that make predictions. But at MIT, we believe that analytics is the blend of machine learning, which is more like predictive, and operations research, which is the prescriptive part, which goes from mathematical models to decisions. So once you blend those two, you have like a pipeline all the way from the data, not just to predictions, because that's not necessarily actionable. You might not know what to do with a particular prediction, but to a decision that is optimized for the business. The second element, I think that differentiates the MIT culture from others in terms of the academic programs that it provides is it goes back to MIT's motto of mens et manus, which is mind and hand. So all programs at MIT are very hands-on, and how it translates for the School of Management, for instance, is into action learning. So I often say that a Harvard Business School created the sort of the business education of the 20th century, which was the case study, and MIT Sloan actually created the business education of the 21st century, which is action learning. What that means is that students work on real-world problems with companies that sponsors projects for the students to work on. So we have a lot of classes and a large part of the curriculum that's devoted not just to theory and technical aspects, but actually to hands-on modeling with real data and real business problems, which I think is something that academic programs in general tend to focus a lot on the techniques, but then when you go out into the business world and try and do analytics there, you realize that most of your time and most of your mind share is dealing either with data or with business problems and business people. So all the soft aspects of analytics, which are typically not really taught in many academic programs.
Okay, thanks a lot. But actually, may I ask you shortly, do you think that the MIT satisfies the market demand in terms of AI specialists now?
I would say so. Definitely not in terms of quantity. that's for sure. There's definitely, I think, a shortage that is not able to be that MIT is not able to supply. Even though they are also introducing MicroMasters program and online education, so you can take MicroMasters online or edX classes that are very popular to kind of increase the supply of academic courses that people can have access to. I think in terms of so that's in terms of the quantity. Now, in terms of the quality, I think we're probably satisfying demand more so than many other programs, both in terms of the technical content. We have obviously world researchers who are always working on new and improved methods, and top students coming from top programs around the world, but also in terms of also kind of the well-rounded and the practicality of the program. I think we're doing a better job than most of the programs. I think, for instance, the new Master of Business Analytics program has a 7 capstone project that students complete with companies, which is kind of a unique feature of our program. I think there still needs to be. I think I remember the head of BCG Gamma, which is the analytics arm of BCG, once came to MIT and had this very interesting equation that, in my experience was true, which is like success in analytics is 10% algorithm, 20% technology, and 70% business process. and obviously that's very self-serving from BCG. But in my experience in the business world, that's actually very true, and I think that's still kind of a missing link for many companies to be successful in AI. Is really how do you go from this model that is created to a re-engineered business process or customer-facing process.
Thanks a lot. We'll come back to that. Boris and Dmitry, I just want to ask you, as people who've been working in this industry for years, for decades, I think, what do you think about the most AI demanding jobs in the industry, and how these skills actually evaluated and develop in the era of AI?
So, okay, I will reply first. So I think the most rare skills now in the business area, this is deep learning for sure. This is highly consumed in computer vision projects, where this is self-driving cars, insurance, life science. A lot of projects require deep learnings. As well, we have a lot of projects with the classical machine learning techniques, where it's financial data, this is retail, different behaviors prediction. So I can say that's big data, machine learning, deep learning, and of course classical engineers, data engineers who can collect data sets and clean data sets. So that's as well highly rare. So yeah, like this.
Thank you. Dmitry, what do you think
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, I come from the background of mathematics actually originally when I did my PhD in 2011 in machine learning, when probably it was not as hot a topic as it is now. But over the years, I can second the note about deep learning, that definitely deep learning has become really, really big, and knowing how to navigate this world helps you a lot. At AlphaSense, we have spent like 8 years doing search engine development. I can say that we look at a blend of a good engineer as well as a good mathematician and a person who can manage machine learning challenge. And just recently, a few months ago, we have set up our own research division where we have hired students, fresh grads from Amherst University as well as Carnegie Mellon. And they are really excited about deep learning and been doing this basically full time as researchers and practitioners in some of the companies. And this is where we see, one of the edge compared to other companies who would probably take existing methods and apply to their business problems. We also try to do a bit of research in that direction. It's quite a challenge. And also coming back to your question, Mikhail, about what kind of people we value for these jobs, it's definitely people who can learn quickly and also who can manage business lingo, so they can actually interact with product managers, using the same language and advance as fast as possible on the problems that we have.
Okay, thanks. But you actually both deal with many teams. You hire people and you hire data scientists, you hire people with AI skills. But do you think that people who you hire actually have they have enough skills, or they should develop it more?
I can say that we cannot have enough skills. So you learn whole your life. So we see that, if you state that you're a PhD or you're a scientist, so you're not stopping doing research, this is your... And I never saw that people who dealing with machine learning, deep learning say, okay, I'm done. So this is that's, I no need to learn more. So this continuously investigation and learn process, conference attendance, but we definitely see the problem with a new generation. So we have a lot of already senior guys, this is my age, my colleagues, but new generation, we definitely see the gap, because the people who deal with the deep learning, machine learning 10 years ago, they just start looking at that. Now it became a trendy. We get these people, but it's not an army. It's just few percent. But how to get army of AI people? This is a question. And we, in Cyclone, we have an internship program where we do education for these guys internally. And we work with different external private universities and government universities, help them to improve the programs to train new generation. So, but definitely see the lack of skills in the market available.
Okay, thanks. Valeria, I'd like to ask you, you are heading probably one technological unit in this country, except the state units. And you recently started to prepare data science specialist or probably AI specialist. If not, please say, but how would you react, your educational unit react to this demand?
Well, probably we should say that we are destroying the prototype of educational prototype. We based on different philosophy. In the current world, we could not rely on experts. I really appreciate experts, and I'm not against them, but I'm saying that you say that we have a lack of people who are experts in AI, and we do not have army. Where to get the army? Well, classical prototype is when you waiting until someone learns something new. New knowledge, and then transfer it to other people, and it's time consuming. And while we have people who are studying new technologies, while those people educating other people those technologies, time goes and we have other technologies. So now we have this, like different situation when we could not rely anymore on people who are getting their knowledge for many, many years and have this depth and breadth and could transfer it to other people. We have to change the paradigm, and we are doing that. We do not have any teachers in our educational institution. Do not have any teachers, and we do not have any mentors, because we believe that if person needed one, he should found or she should found some people who can help with knowledge, right? Or we believe that information is available and easily gathered. So if you have any need for knowledge or any need for information, you should find the way to get it quickly, to solve some problems. The other very important issue is that we are in the very uncertain situations. And when we are talking about business processes, we barely could predict what will happen in a year or in 2 years or further. So we have to decide in the very uncertain, unpredictable, unstructured situations. So all those people who are entering this current world, they have to have an ability to decide with a certain amount of information and to be able to react on what's going on very quickly. And all these things are in our educational model, and if someone would have any questions, I will elaborate on that.
Thank you. Karin, I'd like to ask you, For example, we have a candidate or a person who would like to pick the program and who would like to get some AI education. And this person doesn't know which industry he would like to work in after finishing that program. For example, as we mentioned, AI covers now many industries, retail, manufacturing, many industries. Is there any different programs? Do some programs exist which differ from each other? Or it's just a universal AI educational programs which actually, for example, MIT promotes?
And,
in terms of industrial specification.
Right. Well, there are some industries or some types of problems, let's say, that lend themselves more to certain types of AI than others. So I think we mentioned already computer vision. So that's definitely a subset of problems that some industries are in need much more of computer vision than others, and that. So I think it's more by, and I haven't seen many programs, any really that are dedicated to certain industries only. But what I've seen is some programs that are much more focused, and obviously, especially at the PhD level, where you can get a PhD in computer vision or in natural language processing. So really, by type of analytics problem is where I see some differences. And there may be some more, I would say, corporate or private programs that cater more to certain industries than others. I'm thinking, for instance, of actuaries, so actuarial programs which incorporate some predictive modeling and are obviously geared towards the insurance industry. That would be one example that I can think about. But otherwise, I can't think about many programs that are just targeting a particular industry.
Dmitry and Boris, I'd like to ask you. You deal from your industrial point of view. How do you think if AI specialist, for example, your company deals with like different industries, as we know. Dmitry, your company deals with fintech and edutech industry. Do you think that AI specialists have to have some special education in these industries, or there is a universal program is enough?
Yeah, I can take the financial and education split. So at financial sort of vertical, what I've seen at Alpha Sense, for instance, we did not expect people engineer level to come with the knowledge of how the industry functions. So in a way, we were teaching them, or they would get this knowledge as they go. But I should say that having had that background, they would probably be a bit more successful, or at least maybe faster in getting, the business side of the problem. But luckily, we have, business savvy people in the company. We are headquartered in New York, and we have a bunch of product managers who already know how business functions. So in a way, they help us to learn more about the industry. In the education, I have to say that you need to know what you are doing. So I have co-founded a company called Small Step AI, and we basically build AI for to transform the way online education is done. And my co-founder is actually an educator, so he has spent like a decade teaching Chinese, both in China and in Russia. And he actually experienced all the issues in the education himself. And so it helps him a lot to shape the vision. But for the engineers, we still wouldn't require to know, how education functions. But they will, of course, get, these additional details in that vertical as they go.
Thanks. Boris?
Yeah, so the same situation here. So we cannot expect to have, specialists in all industries. We're working with a lot. So, but what we appreciate, we really respect diversity, and we have a specialist in different graduation, like PhD in biology, in math, in physics, in computer science, of course, and the mix of different people with different background, it's really powerful mix when you're trying to solve complex problem. And you're doing brainstorm, looking for a solution, and this is joint effort of different people with different background is working the best. So we don't ask for special verticals experience, and of course during the years of you doing projects, you're getting the experience, and we have people who know more about fintech, who know more about healthcare, but that's not limit them to join other projects, and we don't see these boundaries.
Thank you. May I ask all speakers now, do you think, colleagues, that the person who would like to get AI education has to have some other education except that, like in general higher education? What do you think?
You mean school?
The higher education. Oh. What kind of education this person has to have? Or these technical skills is quite enough to join the industry?
I would say that definitely not enough, and especially now when we are talking about things that are already require teamwork and diversity, because what we are doing, we are creating a new world. Definitely new, because we are developing things that are unthinkable before, and it requires many different competences, and of course people who are only strictly and deeply technically educated, they could not think of what could be needed, or create something that are absolutely new, or think about customer perspective, or think about other people's needs. So we are talking about many different things, and if we are talking about the T-shaped people with deep knowledge in one area and broad knowledge in many different areas, those people should be led by what so-called combo-shaped people, people who are deeply interested in several areas. And we know that boundaries between industries are merging, so we are not looking for someone who are specialist in certain industry, because fintech, what is fintech? How do you imagine what bank will look like in 10, 20 years?
It's no branches at all.
Yeah, it's no bank. So we have to think how we will, how financial institutions survive. So we are talking about very diverse competences.
Thank you. Dima, Karin?
Yes, I definitely agree with what was being said. I really like a famous Venn diagram that a data scientist and entrepreneur Drew Conway once created to describe what a data scientist is in terms of the skills, and really three types of skills that are needed. One is the quantitative skills, and that's, I think, that what you get through formal education. So I definitely believe, I'm a strong believer that we need to understand how the algorithms function, and you can't just use a drag and drop program without really knowing what's going on in the background. The second set of skills would be the more like the business skills, such as business knowledge or communication skills that are also needed. to impact the business world. And then the third set of skills is technology skills, because you need to be able to access data, to manipulate data, to understand, how to deal with large quantities of data, etc. So this is like the third set of skills that is needed. And so there's definitely formal education needed for some of them. Some can be, such as business expertise, can be acquired on the job. But others, such as communication skills, I think you can acquire through a blend of formal education, but also a lot of practice and training. So that's kind of really three different types of skills that are needed in the marketplace. And sometimes you cannot get all of these in one single individual, so you have to be very careful about the way you construct teams. You have to have teams that have members that together have all these different skills, and hopefully there's a subset of skills in common, because you need to translate between different domains. Oftentimes you see IT not really understanding AI, the business understanding neither AI nor IT, and these sort of silos and these completely different competencies without anyone being able to play the role of translators create a lot of issues and hiccup in the business place.
Thank you. Dima?
Yeah, I could add to all these valid points that formal education will definitely help you, especially if you go into, let's say, deep learning, and you have mathematical background. It will be just a bit easier, to grasp all the concepts. But on the other hand, the existing software and existing sort of programs and all the knowledge available will get you quite far, even if you don't have necessarily the formal mathematical background, and you can maybe just go and read some chapters that you missed. But I've also seen people who have this background, but they are not AI people because they don't have the curiosity in this field. So they can be very good software engineers, and that's that. So they enjoy it. So you cannot sort of demand from them to become AI people. But I've also seen guys on our team who do not have mathematical background, but have so much curiosity that they have taken all these online courses available to them, and they have passed them successfully, and now basically already getting quite material results for the business. And also, it's important to see that, even if you have the formal education and you coupled it with, all the modern AI courses, when you come to the company, usually what you hear is that you need to be able to prove to yourself and to your team and to your management that what you are building actually makes sense. Thanks to the AI hype that we experience right now, it became a bit easier, I should say, because pretty much every company wants to label themselves with AI because it all of a sudden increases valuation, and you feel like you are riding a unicorn, and that's really cool. But eventually this hype will be over. The same way as big data was a hype a few years ago, almost nobody mentions it anymore. Somehow it either converted into AI, so everybody just says AI when they mean big data, but there is also a lot of hype. And as Andrew and G put it really nicely, AI has become the electricity of this world, right? And another guy on Twitter, I don't remember his name, he said, when you say AI, you need to be specific, because saying AI is like electricity because you can power your computer or your phone with it, but so what? You need to explain how you convert that into business. And, if an engineer becomes a bit more savvy in those areas, like where do his or her skills connect with the business, that will help a lot to develop further and get more skills. So I think staying a bit of a generalist, but also curious in these areas and business savvy will help a lot.
Thank you. Boris, do you agree with that point?
Yes, absolutely. I like that word, curiosity and passion. So this is kind of state of the soul, state of your mind to be passionate about what you do and really be in love with machine learning or these techniques or this is, you should take advantage of reading white papers. So when you're reading white papers, formulas, architecture, state of the arts, you should be passionate about that. And that, of course you should have some basic education in math and maybe linear algebra, but first of all you should be passionate, because if you're passionate you will learn ABCD through online, but without passion. And as you said, the good software engineers, maybe not all of them can be good AI engineers. So this is kind of state of your internal world, so you should love this research. So
thank you. And actually, regarding that, may I ask Karin and Valeria, you deal with many students, I would say, and what do you think about this technological passion or AI passion, which our colleagues just mentioned about?
Karin, would you start?
Yes, so last
Karin,
year
can you say a little bit louder?
Oh, yes, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Sure.
Yeah, so last year at the Sloan School of Management, we created this certificate in analytics for MBA students, and we were shocked by the high level of demand that was created. We had 75 students, not just MBAs, but executive MBAs, and our Sloan fellows, so older, more seasoned executives who were really interested in getting that education to impact their companies and improve their careers. So definitely, I think you can't you need that passion, and you need that curiosity. I would caution a little bit though about sometimes these days it's so easy to create a neural network, etc., with TensorFlow that one may think one doesn't need the sort of quantitative background to understand what's going on behind the scenes. That's a little bit what I call the danger zone. You kind of know enough to be dangerous, but you can also create things that are completely devoid of meaning, and create models that end up being total failures when you implement them, because you did something that was sort of theoretically completely wrong. And I've unfortunately seen that with some of our students who are less technically or less quantitatively savvy, that because they've heard about a random forest or a decision tree, and they've been provided with a snippet of code in R. Now they are going to apply that, but in a manner that doesn't make any sense at all.
Thank you. Valeria?
Well, I probably have a slightly different perspective because of our experience. And we have up to 800 students, and 50% of those are humanitarians. So they are studying software programming, but they are previously humanitarians. So at some point of their lives, somebody told them that they are those people who are not able to learn math, and they stopped. And then when they come to us and they start studying programming, they pick up all the knowledge they needed because they know where to apply it and why they needed it, and there is no problem with that. So the curiosity and passion is the core. And if you have any gaps, me personally, I'm not seeing any fundamentals that should be prior to your curiosity to AI or any other new technologies. You can pick up and catch on anything if you are really interested in it. And that's why we do not have any prerequisites to our program other than your mind and your ability to think. And I see tremendous progress of those people who are really, they had no clue what is inside the computer and how these iron think. And now they could do fantastic things. That's why I really believe that if you interested and if you really self-motivated and curious about this new world, you could go forward.
Thank you. Different questions, opinions? Just raise your hand and we come and you can. Sure.
So I will kick off a Q&A session. So I have a question to Karin. So how many people want to attend the classes? So what are the ratio? How you select who passed the entrance, first exam, and how you select who will attend MIT?
Yes, that's a very good question. So our selection process is, the fairly traditional for a university. Maybe what's different is kind of like the high bar that we set. So imagine we have so far a small program that's very sort of human family size of 45 students this year, and we had almost 1,000 applications to choose from. So we use indicators that that have been tried and true, such as GRE scores, but first and foremost your university GPA, what classes you took, were those classes quantitative enough? Will you be able to sustain that high level, almost like PhD level classes in terms of theory? So we want that indicator of academic success. Letters of recommendation, a few things that we're doing differently than in the past. So we are also focusing on well-rounded students because we believe that soft skills such as communication and leadership are very important in order to be successful in your career. So we are asking students to submit a sample project with a few slides that explain a project that they've done in the field of analytics. We are also asking them to submit a 2-minute video that answers a specific question in order to make sure that they have the requisite communication skills that we need. And then lastly, recommendation letters from prior employers or faculty that they have worked with.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Quite high ratio, 1,000 applicants. And
Yes.
Good.
Any other questions?
Maybe the same question here. So how you select?
We are not revealing our criteria because we do not want to have a socially desirable behavior. But what I could say that we don't have any requirements, like formal requirements. We do not pay any attention on your previous achievements. We do not ask to provide us with a diploma or to pass some exams. We have like 2 steps, 3 basically, but 2 main steps on selections. One is online tests. It's memory and logic, and that's it. No words, no knowledge. And the other one is it's already educational process, but it's very tough with a lot of limitations, with a lot of stress, deadlines, overlapping. When you're forced to show and reveal all the capabilities and strengths you have. And if you pass this 1 month, 4 weeks period and you want to continue, you're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, eventually we have a question.
Yes, hi everybody. I have 3 questions. The first one for all of you, and the second one on third. I don't know. Let's start. The first one you said about the skill that is required, that you must to understand how to apply AI to a real world and to understand how it can solve a real business problems, for example. Can you provide an example, the real example that you've have on your projects, companies? Yes, this is the first question.
Okay, I will start with a quick answer. So we have the problem, like one of our clients said, hey, we have a fields and fields of oranges, and so we want to somehow score the fields, so how many fruits we have. And with a human force, so they hire 200 people and they're going through the fields and do this manually, count each fruit, analyze that manually, that this is not scalable, this is not, and it's require a lot of stupid job, not, you know, it can be automated. And so the business problem, like, please replace the person from the process. So we don't want to scale people in this system. We want to put some cameras instead of people. So, and how apply AI to this problem? So you should understand what kind of techniques we have to detect orange on an image, how embed this neural net to the flying drone, so what kind of techniques we have, what are the limitation of existing hardware which require, so that's mean we know theoretically how to detect the object with a lot of published papers, but how to combine all that in solution, that's actually, you know, not easy question, because when you come to details, so that's difference between theoretical knowledge, how to build neural net, to the how to deploy neural net in real time and get continuously retrain, data collection, clearing, labeling, and all these questions. So that's an example how to apply.
Okay,
maybe I'm wrong.
I could give another example quite quickly. So at AlphaSense, we deal with a ton of documents about companies, either publicly traded or private companies, and there are like millions of them. And so one of the problems is that as you read a document, you need to figure out, is this document from this company? So the company is basically the author of the document, or is this document about a company? So some other company has written about it, or it's just a mention. So for instance, in the end of the document, it could say, follow us on Twitter. And the word Twitter in this case, it's not the company name. It's actually just a social media channel. And so we call it salience. So we need to essentially disambiguate all the mentions of a company name between many, many categories. And so we apply deep learning to this problem in order to figure out what is what. But we also involve people to help us train these models basically by annotating these documents, you know, almost like with a pencil, going and highlighting all the mentions and actually classifying them so that we can actually check the quality of our deep learning methods. So this is just one example where deep learning helps us to make our information in the system more accessible.
Thank you.
I can give a very simple example from educational sphere. Those who know how teachers work, you know that we have a lot of technical and very, uninteresting work when you're calculating scores and everything. But imagine that we have 5,000 applicants that passing our 2 online tests, and they are ending up with a very different final results on each test. And I have to select, for example, 1,000 people who could come for personal visit, and we would have personal interviews. And I want to play with the numbers with those who pass this test at that rate and this test at that rate. And then I want to see the other things like other scores and numbers. And then I want to see how many people fail. And then I want to see the data about who are those people, some statistic about their whatever. So if I have all the system in place, I can play with the numbers and make a very conscious decision. If I have to do it manually, if I have to check manually who has which result, it's almost impossible to do with these numbers, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, I can give a real-world example from a past job that I had, where I worked for a large insurance company in the claims department and in the data science team, and so we were building predictive models and prescriptive models to help make the claims process more efficient and more effective. So basically, making sure that the company pays only what it owes, no more, no less, and adjusting the claims in an efficient manner so that we don't spend too much time or too much money in doing so. And so here, understanding the business process and talking to the people, actually adjusting the claims, it really helps in making sure that the model you're producing makes sense, because you may find that a factor has a predictive power where in reality it's either like there's some kind of spurious correlation, or there's some data issue that you need to deal with that you hadn't noticed, and you end up with something that doesn't make intuitive sense. And then secondly, you need to ensure the buy-in from the users, so the claim in that case, the claims adjusters who are going to make use of this algorithm in order to make their job easier and more precise. So if you create some kind of black box model that they don't understand, what happens is they just disregard the output of the model, and they just continue doing their jobs the way they've always done, and you completely failed with AI.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I have next question. Back to your example, Boris, with this solution for the plants and fruits. For example, how many people in team that can solve this complex problem? For example, 2 software engineers, one, I don't know, mathematical, and...
You will love my answer. 0 people. So only team can solve the problem. Because in this complex task, we need hardware guy who know how work drone. We need some special hardware guy who know how to use TensorRT to port neural net to NVIDIA Jetson. We need maybe 1 more or 2, 3, it was actually 4 people who did an actual training of neural net, like data preparation, clearing, architecture design, redesign, reconfiguration. And this is a customization, of course, because classical published models not work from the scratch. So you try A, B, C, D, like CNN, faster CNN, different types of existing architectures, and they work somehow. You can select the best, but when you start achieving the more score, more precise solution, you come to the point, so you need to tune, and that's we have no direct answer how many people we need to tune. Of course, you need minimum 1 person, at least 1 deep learning engineer, but after that, if you have a team, you can distribute the task, you can check different approaches, you can have special person who will do deployment, and this is person who wrap the neural net into like a container, do distribution, so this person like more software engineer. If you need some front end to upload some data for user interaction, so this is a classical front end engineer. And after that, if you need to deploy this neural net to the mobile, it's absolutely different story. And I cannot answer, from the scratch how many people you need. So minimum 1, but I think full stack. This is a good answer. 1 full stack who know everything, but actually 1 team you need.
Okay, so not the fixed size of a team. It's always depends on.
Of course. So how many people do you need to train Tesla out? Self-driven car system. It's more than 1,000, I think, and they do different part of the system. After that, they do ensemble of the models or connect them and so on. So this is research, and the more people involved, the more precise results you get. But it's all come to the money. How much money can you invest into the research? And of course, it's really heavily connected to the infrastructure you have. So more GPUs you have, there's more complex model you can try, more data, and so on.
Yeah, thank you. And the last question is about the precise technologies that you use for such a solution. For example, the programming languages, libraries, frameworks. Is there are some, the most common but that you use? For example, TensorFlow or.
Dmitry, can you answer that? I want to learn a little bit more about your stack.
Sure, with pleasure. Probably TensorFlow is one of the most sort of adopted and stable frameworks that we invest into. But there are also interesting frameworks like Torch. I don't know if you've heard about it. It has a different sort of set of abstractions, and actually there is a really good video on YouTube from a guy from Twitter who explains how to use Torch, and he really shows you that you don't need to know a lot about the framework, and you can start immediately training your neural network and build the architecture as well. So of course there is also research that you can follow, but I would say that TensorFlow is probably by far, the leader on the market. And again, this is actually a play between big leaders on the market, as you might know or might not. It's Google, Facebook, who really compete, among each other. And of course, there is, Apple and Tesla. All of these have their head of AI, and they heavily invest in both research and development. But I would say maybe you could start with TensorFlow and look a bit at Torch.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that the same technical stack, like in terms of programming language, your three friends is a Python, R, and MATLAB. So this is your three friends. And what I can recommend, take a look on the NVIDIA container, which already has an image with pre-installed tools and heavily optimized by NVIDIA. So they invest a lot of efforts, do software optimization between interconnection inside the Linux container with all existing tools, and they do updates every month. So they speed up training. They do the training speed. They speed up training with the help of software optimization, not by adding GPUs. So it's kind of exciting. So that's it. And the same tooling as a TensorFlow is like the best. Torch is as well. Sometimes we use both of them. So depending on the task.
Thank you. A question?
I have a question to all our participants and maybe some of the audience members, a bit changing the topic of the discussion towards more like soft side of things. How do you think, how do you tackle the ethical aspects of AI? One of the examples probably where ethics surfaces is, let's say you have a autonomous self-driven car, and the algorithm detects that there is going to be an accident with 100% probability, but you need to choose whom to hit. Let's say an old man or a lady with a kid, something like that. So you need to choose, right? You cannot just throw a coin and say, okay, I'm going to choose that one. It's probably an extreme example, but I'm sure there are some other examples where, let's say you deploy your technology. How far do you think through what are the implications in that space? And I guess this question is to all our participants, not just industry, but I'm pretty sure it's also education where we can raise these topics.
Thank you. That's a good question. Who would like to start?
Well, it's a very good and a very tough question because we do not have kind of a good solution for a human being. Not saying about artificial intelligence or technologies. Well, when we are talking about humans, we are saying about basic values, and we are saying about the social dilemmas when, in your example, when you have to choose whom to kill. It's already a very, deep and not easygoing question. And given that we are talking about algorithms and we have to provide some values to machines, well, it's really, it very close to Nobel Prize if someone solves it easily.
Thank you.
It's hard to say.
It's quite understandable. Who else would like to answer? Karin?
Yes, I think it's definitely important to incorporate some ethics courses within any AI education, and that's definitely something that I see as lacking and having a the potential to be increased. So one area that has done a lot of research at MIT, and particularly in the media lab, is around algorithmic bias, which is another form of ethical problem where
Not now.
algorithm per se, or how the algorithm is used, you end up creating or perpetuating some form of bias. So there's uses now of AI in, say, criminal justice decisions, who is getting parole or not, which have been shown to discriminate against people of color. The examples that got a lot of press recently were some image recognition or face recognition algorithms that were failing quite miserably on minority people. So I think this is definitely necessary to increase awareness and education in that area. And I think, and I agree that unfortunately, so far there's no silver bullet to address the issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. So we should solve this machine morality problem with the same technology as we're trying to create this AI. So we should learn from people who do fails on the roads. So now we have a really low personal monitoring, everything what we track, how many steps you did per day. But we not monitoring how you think, how your neurons, how your axons connected, and so we don't investigate how people's brain work. So when we will have a smart gadgets which will be connected to us in 20, 30 years, we will 24/7 get telemetry from your brain, and when some people or some person fail, we will get that as an input for the big global neural net, which will take this as an input to learn from the fail. And in this way, I think machine will learn how people fail and just do the same. As a Boston Dynamics train robot do a jump, the same, they will learn how do people mistakes. And we will do mistakes not according how people train the robot, but how robot learn from people.
Thank you.
But again, it's very, very tough and not solved by now question, because if we are talking about moral problem, you cannot learn from the fail, because what is fail? To kill the old woman instead of the young man?
Please,
well,
could you answer that?
Is it the right decision? So here we have very very deep and not easy to solve by algorithm questions.
It's a social issue, right? Boris, what do you think about this?
So actually, I already passed this test, so I know the answer. And yeah, and with my friends, we had every time when we come back to this topic, we have a kind of politic fight. It's like a religion. So who is a better, old people with a knowledge for the humanity or new generation with potential? And actually we come to conclusion, so that should be random. So we should just do random selection, and that will be honest enough. Because people do sometimes random choices, they unlogical choices, and machine can do the same. So I have no answer as well. This is super hot topic now, and we'll continue think about that and working with that. But I don't think that we will find tomorrow any solutions.
Thank you. You wanted to ask, right?
Hello, my name is Mila. My question is for all the speakers, and how do you think, what is the age for children is good enough for start learning AI if a kid, for example, has some base from Python or JavaScript? Thank you.
Thanks. Who would like to start?
I think, yeah, I think it's, I have my friend's son, he's 14, and I just bought a gift, like birthday gift, it's a Python for kids, and you know, every kid's now playing Minecraft, and that was a tutorial how learning Python for Minecraft. And in this way, the kids perfectly get the context and maybe main idea of coding. So they optimize building, optimize fighting. So that was a, you know, it's a game. And if they are so far in a coding now, in 14 years in Minecraft, why they not apply deep learning or machine learning to learn something about the Minecraft world? And this is, I don't think the age should be a barrier, but as soon as the kid already, it's not a kid if he's writing Python, I think it's a junior. So as soon as he's writing Python, it's already time to show the next door. So just start learning about what is the machine learning, the concepts. Maybe he will not get from the scratch. Maybe he will do this 3 times iterations to get the concept. But I don't think that's something wrong to start reading that, because all people are different and we don't have the answer for everyone. So that's, I think the better is try.
Thank you. You can call a kid any adult, just in case. Karin, what do you think?
I agree. I don't think there's an age limit. I think in particular for coding skills, it's kind of it's kind of like learning language or learning math. It's now the way the education system has to evolve to teach the skills that are needed for the 21st century. And so first, I think starting coding as early as possible, and now there are great tools for kids, such as like a very intuitive programming language called Scratch that was created by the Media Lab at MIT that teach kids, as young as 6 can start really getting a feel for what coding is, and the sort of concept of making an action happen or a decision happen based on the decision rules that you create. And then from then on, once you have coding basics, I don't see why not introduce AI.
Thank you. Dima, any suggestions?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I can take the opportunity to mention some of the things in particular. So for those of you who would like to get into AI, and no matter what age is, you can actually go and try yourself on Kaggle. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's probably one of the best communities that I've heard of and actually participated in. And it actually now transformed from what it was a few years ago into a community that helps, that shares all this code, and actually you can learn, from those who have won their prizes. And so basically you can learn and actually earn some money as well at the same time if you wish. There are some people who do this almost like full-time, as a full-time job. But coming back to the question of the age, I think where software engineering or AI become more fun and involve hardware, for instance, you can buy like a Raspberry Pi, or a drone and start coding Python, and you don't think about Python per se, but you think about some specific goal that you're trying to hit, and it might be really, really fun to fly your drone and do some certain actions, or program something on Raspberry Pi and actually, impress your parents and by clapping your hands, you will switch on lights or something like that. I don't know. So these type of things, I think for kids, it's a lot about sort of, entertainment and actually fostering the curiosity, if you will. And as they grow, I guess these skills will be with them. So it's really cool to have them as an adult, I think.
Thanks. Questions? Opinions? Sure.
Yes, one more question to Valeria, maybe a bit down to earth, but question is about the level of English language. Do you require when your students apply, and how do you check the English level, and how do you estimate the level of knowledge of English language knowledge in general?
Well, as I said, we do not have any prerequisites to enter Unit Factory, and we do not check English level. But we openly say that all our tasks and assignments are in English. So if your level is not good enough and you're willing to learn how to code and English at the same time, you're more than welcome. So basically, I saw a lot of students who had not very good level of English, and of course they had some severe problems on exams when they disconnected from the internet. But we decided to provide them with offline vocabulary, so they could do it on exams. And I must say that they progress tremendously while they're doing both.
Thanks. You had questions? Wait a second.
Hello, my question is for Boris or Dmitry. Are there any limitations on hardware that you need for developing AI projects at home, or just you need a mid-range laptop is enough for developing? Do you need any additional hardware like Intel Movidios or something like that to make your development more efficient? Thank you.
So I can say that to start learning about machine learning, you definitely enough your laptop and your CPU just to run the basics, because the educational data set's not big. So educational tasks are just to get your intuition. So you should get the concepts. So Android courses like full. You can use your laptop, but when you start doing the neural net design and basically do some image processing, it's equally proportional to time, how much iterations take. And the faster iteration pass, so you can do more iterations per day. So it's not linear coloration, but of course you should have GPU. So I suggest minimum one GPU, like NVIDIA card, or because better to buy one at home than take a rent, because now you can do this in cloud. But if you're serious about, so minimum one GPU is okay, but the more is better. So it's a question of money, how much you should. So I don't know, maybe Dmitry can advise, but I think this is.
Dmitry?
Yeah, I can only second that. I can tell you that a few years ago, I participated in one of the Kaggle competitions, and the amount of data was somewhere in gigabytes. So my computer was barely, able to process it, and it was taking something like 10 hours per run, so that in 10 hours I would need to sort of come back to it and see what happened. So if I had a server, maybe 10x more powerful, maybe I could be able to do this, within a couple of hours. And while it's doing it, I would have more ideas, by the time it has completed. So I think I can only second what Boris said. Like, if you can shrink by money or by, getting employed with a good company that can, spend more money on hardware, you will save a lot of time, and actually you will be probably more productive as well if you can use GPU servers. And there are new architectures as well, like TPUs, and I think Google invests a lot into this, as well as Amazon. So you can actually leverage their cloud for your, projects.
Thanks. Karin, may I ask you, back to educational programs. There is a controversial question now among other industries, among other educational programs. Some people consider that online education is good. It's even better than offline. Regarding AI education, do you think, how could you compare these two ways of getting these skills, online and offline? Do you think it's absolutely comparable, or some way is better than another? What do you think?
Yes, I believe there's good quality online education. We mentioned Andrew Ng. There's the classes that he has on I forget if it's Coursera or Udacity. Introduction to Machine Learning are really good quality. The Coursera data science certification, I believe, is a pretty decent quality as well. So I think there's definitely quality offering in online education. Now, I think it's a little bit hard to, there's one aspect which is obviously because of the low cost and relatively low effort, you don't need to go to a campus or quit your job. You can do it from your home, part-time, a few hours here and there. I think the dropout rate of these classes is huge compared to traditional brick-and-mortar education. And I think also it's a little bit potentially difficult to grade the students in a way that's really trustworthy. You can often find the problems solved on GitHub and posted by prior students. So how do you make sure that the students are actually really completing the problem sets and themselves, rather than having issues with cheating? Another question is, how well regarded they are in the marketplace. How are these certifications and MOOCs considered in the marketplace? And I think right now it's still not. It's not at the same level as a degree granting program. So having like a master's degree, say, in data science is definitely much more trustworthy signal for companies, especially if it's from a well-known institution, than if it's sort of an online MOOC. And I think the MOOCs are definitely helpful for career changers or people who want to explore maybe before potentially making the decision to kind of get more education in the field, or for lifelong learning, so continuing education, which I think was mentioned before, and I totally agree that it's not a one and done process. You need to keep learning. You want to keep refreshing your skills, learning new programming languages, new framework, new technology, and I think the MOOCs are definitely a good option for that.
Thank you. Valeria, Boris, do you agree with that point of view?
Well, definitely. Me personally, I do not believe in online education. I know that it's a brilliant thing for mature, self-motivated people who know why they need this type of knowledge. But overall, for many people, for majority of people, it's not applicable because of the drop-off rate. And that's why we believe that what we are having in Unit Factory, it's purely offline. We do have our technique how to check cheaters, how to find that they do not copy-paste from GitHub, and it's communication face-to-face, it's peer-to-peer learning and evaluating, and we are social human are social being, so we have to interact with other people. And when you are interacting only with computer, you have to be self-motivated, very mature, and you know why you're doing this. And it's not for everybody.
Thank you. Boris, when you hire people and you see in resume that this person has the, for example, offline certificate and another person has an online certificate, what should be an advantage?
We're giving the test.
From business perspective.
Yeah, from business perspective, we don't believe that this online and offline, so people can print out now everything. So Photoshop make miracles. So you can do whatever you know. We basically more rely on knowledge person has, and he can prove that in 1-2 week work. Then just verify this his knowledge in real. Or we prefer ask general questions and see how person reply, how he think, what is in his head, instead of looking in the resume. Of course, resume is important to get some pre-screening, and we think it's good to have online certificates. We have in my team, we have a champion. He has more than 70. 70. 70, yeah. So I think he passed all Coursera, all Udacity, all. So this is his hobby, and we call him online courses monster, because he do, this is his hobby, and yeah. So he collects certificates, but I think the good fundamental knowledge from university is good. And when person is motivated, I have a really good story example. When my friend, he worked as a senior Android developer, he said, "Okay, it's not. I don't see the path where I can evolve." He go to MIT website, find the courses, and take a class. He attend the online classes. I don't know exactly how that's organized. At the end, he pay money to pass real exam and did some diploma, write some real project. He deployed this to Google Play Market. So professor checked this application, and he passed real exam. It was over online tool, and he now has already passed courses. So I said, in somewhere in future, he will take other courses, so he will finish MIT, even from Ukraine. So I think it's a good example when we remove the borders for education, and if he's self-motivated, that's good. So we don't care a lot about type of certificate.
Okay, that's position. Thank you. Dima, what do you think about it?
Well, actually, I have to say that the way we structured our hiring process is that we will definitely pay attention to your formal education. So let's say it is a red line for us to see, it's our choice to see that you have started your master degree program but did not finish, and and some people even say that they don't have any aim to finish because they think it's boring or something like that. So for us, it's basically like, maybe a sign of a person who wouldn't necessarily, like to finish things. So even if it's boring, just finish and move on. And if it wasn't boring and you have gotten some good knowledge, basically you can use it at work. I can give you an example of one of the junior guys who joined us maybe 5 years ago. He had 2 PhD degrees by the age 25 from Russia and from Finland. And actually, it impressed one of our senior engineers. And by now, he is probably one of the stars. Maybe it just played out nicely, but anyway, we sort of paid attention to that. When it comes to certificates, it's definitely a bonus, but not necessarily a requirement. It will show that you have interest in these areas, but we will still challenge your logical thinking. So we offer, couple-hour written test, and by the end of the test, you will have to defend that test in front of us. It's a bit of a challenge, a bit of a pressure. We take it more like a work setting, but also we challenge your choices in the code or otherwise, like why did you decide to go that path and why do you think it's optimal and can you improve that? And then we check if you can improve it real time in front of us. That's a big bonus. So coupled with formal education, we can then make a decision whether or not to hire.
Thanks. Any questions? Opinions? Sure.
I represent a product company that collect a lot of data. What do you think? Does it make sense to hire and to grow AI team in-house or to work as outsourcing with AI specialists? Or ways that the border when which decision is better?
I think as a representative outsourcing company, I should start suggesting you come to us and do it with us. But I have a question to you. Why you even have the data, a lot of data, and not considering to have in-house specialists who can benefit out of the data? That means you have a gold or you have a brilliance or diamonds, but nobody know what to do with that. So you definitely should have at least one person in team, and that should be person who know this stuff. And some
no, it's not about gold, not about secret. We are very transparent company. Why I thinking about it? Because in-house specialists, it's usually not a big team, and I'm afraid that there is a risk that they will work only one with small team, and they don't receive a lot of knowledge outside.
I think it's really good that to have 1, 2, 3 people in your team who continuously work on your business problem, who know the context, who know the problematic specific of data, and who identify the needs where you can apply outsourcing. Because if you just business guy, you have a data specialist, but no scientists in a team who know what you need to do with that and or which patterns to apply. So you will go to outsourcing company number 1, 2, 3. They will offer you different solutions, but you will have no decision maker in your team who know your business really good, and that will maybe take, you will do 1, 2, 3 trials. At the end, you will find the solution, but that will be, I think, more expensive. So I suggest have your small team close to you, and of course go to specialists who already have the portfolio, and maybe these guys who has experience can suggest who should be in your team, and in a partnership you can start growing that together. So I think it's you can try 2 ways, like hire and
it's clear. It's good answer. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I'm ask all speakers now. Back to our subject. How would you see the AI education programs in few years? That's the first question regarding educational segment, and about the business segment. Which industries the AI would affect more in few years? Thank you. Karin?
Sure. So for the first question on the future of AI education, I think just like retail was really revolutionized by e-commerce, I think brick and mortar education is being revolutionized by online learning, and I think any sort of brick and mortar institution to survive and do well in the future will need to have a blend. I agree with the fact that online learning is not for everyone and for everything, but I think when you look at the costs of an education, it's not necessarily sustainable and it's not for everyone, and so you have to understand as an institution, where really sort of is the value of being on campus and having sort of being physically co-located and having sort of sort of brick and mortar classes versus where you can introduce e-learning. And I think this, secondly, I think we need to continue reinforcing the relationships between universities and businesses and companies, really to bridge the gap between theory and practice, make sure that the students come out of programs business ready and ready to hit the ground running. You can have programs where you learn Python and TensorFlow, but the students don't know SQL. And when you go into the business world, you're probably in a lot of companies you're going to still have to manipulate and access data with SQL, for instance. So make sure that the expectations and the student readiness is there. So that would be my take. Was a second question regarding which fields have the most potential?
About industries.
Right. Yeah, I think when you look at in the United States, for instance, where a significant chunk of the GDP is taken up by healthcare, and that's one of the fields where AI has not been applied much, or analytics really still in its infancy. So I think that is definitely one of the biggest areas for the U.S. to really deal with the healthcare crisis in terms of cost and quality and access, as well as personalized medicine, etc. So that's a field that I have a strong belief will be impacted greatly in the future by AI.
Thanks. Boris?
I think the evolution of educational in AI, we have a good example in Ukraine. This year, 8 new programs adopted to the business was introduced in universities and launched. So that's mean all universities take serious the business industry needs, and they started adopting to that, update the educational plans, programs, improve them. And I think in the next 3 years, we will see more close collaboration between big companies and universities. We already have the joint programs where we suggest what we need, and they combine it with the theoretical, and we provide practical. So we have these joint efforts. And I think we will have more, we will scale that, so because we need much more people. And I think we will automate that. So this different type of exams, different type of tests will be, deployed, and we will kind of benefit out of that. It will be much easier to pass exams.
Thanks. And what about industries?
I'm fully agree with the healthcare. I think that finance, because finance is money. Money is something that's really important to the business. And if business know how better earn money, they will pay any money for that. so definitely finance sector, insurance sector, retail, healthcare, and I think consumer electronics, different gadgets, we will see small trends how the deep learning migrate to the devices, but that will be more bigger trend in 3-5 years. And we have a smart toys, we will have smart assistants in kitchen, smart homes, and actually smart, not like if it's a light, turn off the lamp. If this is no light, so not simple logic, more advanced. So system will collect information about the way we live, and they will improve that. So if I forget to turn off the ironing, so they will do this instead of me.
Thanks. Valeria?
As for education, I think we have to move more to challenge-based learning. It's not about rejecting academical world, but it's about having people who can solve problems and get the information when they need it. I think that we will have more diverse teams in education when you have people from different industries or different spheres gathered together on certain challenges. I think it should be probably offline because we will have more potentially deeper and effective decisions when we interact with one another personally. Well, I think that we have to switch from certain amount of knowledge that you put in your head to critical thinking and to 21st century skills and develop on that. As for industries, I think I agree with both speakers, and well, we have a lot of things in smart, fabric, in decisions for disabled people. So we will have many areas where it evolves.
Thanks. Dmitry?
Yeah, I think that in education, having spent last year teaching a course on AI in the University of Helsinki and actually preparing for the next course, I see that there is interest in students to learn from the industry actually, because some of them actually do want to go to the industry after they graduate, and some of them would prefer to stay in the universities. So sort of learning from those verticals, let's say I come there as a fintech representative, but it could be somebody doing, biotech or educational technology or whatnot. So sort of bringing more of these specific industry niches might help a lot in the education. And actually, to be honest, I already see this at least in online courses where, specialists from insurance come in and they say, we're going to teach you how to apply data science in the insurance. And if you have some curiosity and interest in that field, you will definitely probably at least try that course and judge for yourself. For the business, I think that anywhere where we can automate routine work and actually create the room for creativity will sort of thrive in the future. I think I strongly believe that online education in particular can be revolutionized with AI, and this is where we work at Small Step, and we genuinely believe in that. We believe in adaptive learning experience where you as a learner do not depend on a particular course, particular teacher, or some other resource. You basically can combine. You first come from your own questions. What do you want to learn? And it could be very small and specific question or very broad one. And so it will be easier for you to navigate the knowledge space. But also other things like as I follow how AI companies are created, one of them that really I remember right now is like, you walk on the street and you notice somebody's shirt and you really like it. So can you go online and actually submit your size and a picture of that shirt and have it sent to you in a couple of weeks? There is a startup doing this. It's a very challenging topic, but I think it will find its audience for sure. And definitely all the more traditional and more conservative industries like financials and maybe education as well, as I mentioned it, they will open more. But I think they also are a bit reserved towards AI because, for instance, financial industry is quite conservative because where you deal with a lot of money, you also cannot easily trust a machine to make a decision. So I think more like combining AI with people, informing them better to make decisions, that definitely will be increasing in the coming years.
Thank you. If no any other questions, I think we're gonna finish our night. Thank you very much, our prominent speakers. Let's applaud for such an interesting discussion. I hope we got all very useful knowledge tonight, and hopefully everything which we got here tonight we'll try to use in our future in our business, in our education, and hopefully AI will affect us positively. Thank everybody, thank you very much, and have a great night. Thank you.
Corinne. Thank you, Dmitry. It was a big pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.